Welcome to RainierAvenueRadio.World. We are celebrating Black History Month right here in our facility. Our goal has been to do 20 events in 28 days, and this is the 19th event. I think that's worth a round of applause. In celebrating Black History Month, we've had a number of different conversations and events that have taken place. We discussed experiencing Blackness in Rainier Valley. That was a wonderful conversation that we had. We recently had Education Night, where we took a holistic approach to what education means and what that looks like. We had folks here from the University of Washington, from the MESA program, from early education, from K through 12. Of course, from higher education. We also had folks here from charter schools, from public schools and private schools. We even had folks here who talked about the importance of health and what it means in regard to physical activity as part of your education, and of course, what you put in your body, food, and how that impacts your ability to learn. And so tonight is Social Services, Social Justice Night, and we have a number of people here who work within our community or advocate within our communities for certain causes, and we're going to give you an opportunity to hear these voices. Joining me is Jalal. Jalal, how you doing, my man?
I'm good.
Talk a little bit about your show and what you do.
Okay. Well, I have a show called The Single Father Project, and basically my show is about my journey. I'm a single father of 4 children that I'm raising by myself, and so it's just talks about my journey of growth as I'm raising them and becoming and growing as a man and as a father. So it's kind of what it's about.
All right, and it's an excellent show. You should check it out. You really. And we are happy to have you here today, Jalal.
Yes, sir.
And also Brenda Charles. And Brenda does a show called Seniors Matter, an awesome show where she gets great guests. Why don't you tell us, Brenda, about your show and yourself?
I'm Brenda Charles Edwards. My show is called Seniors Matter, as he said. And what I do is talk to people that bring information, resources, and just overall, just because you're become a senior, I hate that word senior, I like older adults, doesn't mean that it's the end of the world for you. There's still a lot of living to be done. And if you are in need of resources, we try to provide that for you, as well as inspiration. Our last show was about a lady who was a pioneer in the Rosie the Riveter, and she just happened to be my mother. That interview will be on the air tomorrow at 12 noon on RainierAvenueRadio.World.
All right. That being said, let's get started. Mr. Rye, come on over here. Brenda, why don't you stay up here with Jalal? And here you go.
Thank you very much.
All right. How you doing today, Mr.
Just
Rye?
fine, just fine.
All right. So tell us who you are.
Okay, my name is Eddie Rye Jr., and I'm here tonight representing the Washington State Civil Rights Coalition. I know it's about social justice. Without economic justice, it makes the social side much more difficult.
Right.
So one of the things we focus on is economic equity and economic justice. And we focus on the policies that have been passed locally, nationally, and we know at the federal level there's not going to be very much help with Jeffrey Beauregard, Grand Dragon Sessions as Attorney General. So we have to focus locally in terms of trying to get justice because we pay taxes locally. Most recently, we lost once again the chance to repeal Initiative 200. It was passed 20 years ago that has seen minority and women's share of the business in Washington State go from 13% to less than 3%. White males are receiving over 97%, and I-200 was passed was opposed to preferential treatment and also to other forms of discrimination. And anytime one group is getting 97%, I guess it's okay. So anyway, we have met with the governor, some of the governor's people, and they claim they can't do anything. But the sad thing is that an African-American female by the name of Representative Christine Reeves from the 30th Legislative District in Federal Way has killed this bill 2 years in a row, sponsored by Representative Sharon Tomiko Santos. And this year it didn't make it to the Senate floor because of a guy that's half Japanese named Senator Steve Hobbs from Snohomish County. So the governor gave us some bad news, but our next stop will be the courthouse. And we have some people already lined up to take that on.
Okay, that's amazing. So what do you need from the community right now? How do they get involved and help out?
One of the things that happened already was last Monday was African American Legislative Day. And I was very impressed with the fact that probably 400 of the people attending were in high school or younger.
Wow.
And one of the things we can do is to bring young ones along to make sure they understand what's going to be here. Because, you know, laws change after the civil rights, after the Civil War. It's Black History Month. You know, we had 2 blacks in the U.S. Senate from Mississippi. We had Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana, Secretary of State in South Carolina, but Andrew Johnson cut a deal with the people down south to get presidency, pulled the federal troops out and turned the Night Riders loose, and they took everything black folks own. We get back to the Civil Rights Act, all through the work Martin Luther King and others did. We get those laws passed. We get a right-wing, white supremacist administration in, and all those laws are removed or repealed. So it's up to us now as African Americans, descendants of United States slaves, is to get involved in the economic pie. We're the only group that's never had a full-fledged voting member of the Federal Reserve. If you're not allowed to participate in the economic system, you're doomed for second-class citizenship. That's how we lost the entire central area of Seattle, is because of the fact we're doing blacks 1/100th of 1% of the state's business. It's the same thing with the city, with the county. It's the same thing everywhere because they put these Trump-supporting big business owners and contractors in charge, and they pick who they want to work. Okay, with the federal money, white women are considered minorities. So therefore, when you count up the federal money coming to Washington State and the federal money, whites are still getting over 95%. So it's just not fair, and that's how we lost the CD, because of economic apartheid. There's no nice way to put it.
That's very true.
Right. I agree with that. And one of the things I'm very interested in seeing happen is, especially in the economics, I would like to see it being taught more in the elementary, middle school, and high schools on up, because I feel like we don't really know a lot about how money works, the things that we need to change to make it better. What do you think about that?
Well, I can only go back historically. During segregation, there was a town, a part of Tulsa, Oklahoma, called Black Wall Street. And they had restaurants, funeral homes, hotels, banks, and everything else. And they accused one black man, an elevator operator, of raping a white woman. And they burned all Black Wall Street down, and the army killed 700 people. So I'm saying every time we get built up, we get knocked back down. What we got to do now is we got to make an appeal. With 45 been in the White House, the whole world sees what we've been talking about for the last couple of 100 years, okay? Right. So we have to now, and I'm encouraging Reverend Al Sharpton to have an economic summit at his national meeting in April to invite all these banks from around the world to the table, including Deutsche Bank or the Russian banks, wherever Trump getting his money from, it'll help us too. So we're going to invite all these folks to the table and see what we can do, because we're not going to get it from the people that run this country. It's just not going to happen. Right. If folks say whatever they want to, you can be a model Negro all you want to, you will never succeed in this country as long as you're cut off from the capital that you need to become an equal citizen in this society.
So Eddie, I know that you have been a fighter for a long time, and your daughter is a fighter, but what's happening with the port? I know that was a project of yours too, the Port of Seattle. Where are things standing with that?
Well, after a 3-year struggle, the 3 minority firms that will be leaving the port at the end of this year had the same treatment as the large firm they're from Switzerland. But anyway, so those 3 minority firms got 9 and 10-year lease extensions. They got the same treatment as everyone else. So it did take a while, but it worked out. But it was constant pressure from the community and the Washington State Civil Rights Coalition and others that made that possible.
Is there a number for the Washington States Coalition that people can call?
Yeah, they can call me, or they can call John Yasunaki. I'm at 206-786-2763. And I also host Urban Forum Northwest on KKNW 1150 AM. Thank you very much, Mr. Tony B. I appreciate the opportunity. And thank both of you.
Thank you.
MCs, we appreciate you.
Welcome. And what is your name, ma'am?
I am Marilyn Watkins with the Economic Opportunity Institute.
Great. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, well, I also work for an economic justice organization that focuses here both in Seattle and at the Washington state level because, like the gentleman who just spoke said, you know, these next few years we're not going to get a whole lot done at the federal level. So we focus on the kinds of issues that provide economic security and opportunity for working people and their families, issues like access to quality, affordable childcare with good wages for those childcare teachers, access to college education, access to affordable health care. I just led a campaign that had lots of community support, lots of involvement to get a paid family and medical leave insurance program passed here in the state of Washington. So starting in 2020, everybody working in the state of Washington will actually have insurance for themselves that they will be able to take 12 to 18 weeks off if they have a new baby, if they have a seriously ill family member, including a grandparent or a sibling or a grandchild, as well as more immediate family members, or if they have a serious health condition themselves and can't go to work. Since most people live paycheck to paycheck in our society, that's a really important thing for people to have. So we're only the 5th state in the country to have a program like that in place. And one of the things that I'm working on now, and a lot of other people are working on now, and we'd love community input on, is we're working with the state to develop the way, all of the protocols and everything for how people are going to be applying for this program. We want to be sure that this is really accessible so that it's available to the lowest income workers, people who speak English fluently, people who don't speak English fluently, people who have disabilities, people who have trauma going on in their lives and are having a difficult time. We want to be sure this is equally accessible to them. So would love to continue to have community input in that. Another one of the issues that we're working on right now, where we're really doing a lot of outreach and wanting to get a lot of community input into what the policy is working like. Our mayor, Jenny Durkin, one of her campaign things was to do a 13th year, a free year of community college for graduates of Seattle high schools. Well, that's a great idea, but like most policies, it's really important to get the details right. And so one of the things that we do at the Economic Opportunity Institute is both do the policy research, look at what's happening around the country, who else is doing this well, what are the problems with existing programs that we could do better, but we also go out and convene people to really talk about, okay, what does your community need from a program like this? We talk to individuals, to groups, to small business owners. So we've already had a couple of these listening sessions, getting community input into what do you want a college access program that the city of Seattle would fund to look like. We want it to be sustainably funded with not regressive taxes. I think a lot of us just saw our property taxes go up. We're going to be paying a lot more whether you're renting or you own your own home. You're going to be paying those higher property taxes. So we don't need another higher, even higher property tax in a city that's already so unaffordable. So what's a way that we can have those super wealthy people that we know exist in our community, have them also contribute to the well-being and the future and opportunity for everybody here in our community? So we'd love to have community input into that. You can check out my organization's website, Economic Opportunity Institute, at eoionline.org. My colleague Sarah, her email is sarah@eoionline.org. She's the one who's convening these listening sessions around this college access program here in the city of Seattle. She'd love to get input from anyone who's interested in being involved in those listening sessions. She'd love to hear from you. And my email is Marilyn, Marilyn, @eoionline.org. Again, if you're interested in the paid family leave program or any of our other programs, feel free to contact me, because the more that we have people actually engaged and actually developing the policies that are going to impact them and then working to get those passed, that's the way that we keep our economy strong and we really make our democracy one that's really going to work for every single person in our society.
Thank you, Marilyn. You have said a mouthful, but you have made it very clear, and we appreciate that. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Before we go to our next guest, I'm just going to put the microphone out to the audience. And the question that I want to have, and we'll just, make this, has there, with what you do, and I'm just randomly giving the microphone, but unless somebody wants to raise their hand to this question, how have the changes in immigration policies affect your work? Is there anybody here that works with folks who are immigrants to the country? Oh, you are the next person. Anybody else here? Because I want to share. Oh, I know you're trying to get me on camera. Well, then you're up next. Anybody else here that changes in immigration policies have affected the work that you do, or how you, or the clientele that you work with? Well, we're just going to go straight to you then. Why don't you go ahead and.
Thank you.
And, oh, you know what I wanted to say about EOI? EOI helped send me to Finland. A number of years ago to study early education and brain development, and EOI helped do that. Sent a bunch of us from around John Burbank. Yeah. So I was glad to see EOI here.
Should I start?
Go ahead.
Tell us your name and what organization you're with, please.
My name is Manaz Shatu, and I am representing Refugee Women's Alliance.
I know them.
Yes, so Refugee Women's. Should I
Yes.
answer the question that he had, or should I
Yes.
just go ahead? So the impact since 2016, the impact of the federal government policy on refugees and immigrants have been tremendously negative. We experience, a lot of refugees and immigrants experience fear of deportation, regardless of whether they are legal or illegal. People are afraid of calling the police if something happens, because they're thinking that if they contact authorities, they're going to be deported. People are afraid of going, for domestic violence. We see a lot of people are afraid of going to to complain because they think that it's going to work against them. We have seen a lot of anything that has to do with, contacting officials, anything that has to do with going into public, they're afraid of. They're thinking that they're going to be, deported.
Do they have fear on their jobs?
They fear, the fear of their jobs is not as much as, to certain degrees, finding a job has been impacted. But the fear of at the beginning of 2016, there was we experienced two different types of, relationship with the public. One that is the people who had a reason to be, or they had hidden prejudice. Now it's okay for them to express that prejudice. So a lot of our clients, our staff who are from different countries, have been, for instance, forced to drive out of the highway, or they were shot at, or they were yelled at, or in schools, the experience of the children of refugees and immigrants experienced a lot of hatreds. On the other hand, we have a lot of people who are calling us from the communities and asking how can they help, and in many different ways, by volunteerism, by actually supporting us financially. So a lot of people, so the two different extremes, people who could be hateful and they become hateful, and people who really believe in American democracy and want to help.
Has this been in just one particular area, or is it all over the Seattle and state of Washington? Do you know?
It's all over the Seattle and state of Washington.
Wow.
So
how does one get hold of you to help and to
Okay.
volunteer, to support you and donate?
So if I can explain a little
Sure.
bit about our organization. Our organization is 32 years old. It was established by a refugee woman who was Vietnamese, a teacher in Vietnam, who came over here and became successful and wanted to give back to the society. So she started this English proficiency language classes. And then later on, they added the childcare. And then domestic violence became an issue for refugees and immigrants because they didn't understand the rules and regulations in the United States. And gradually, ReWa was able to expand our programs to kind of develop a systematic approach, a holistic system amongst to address the needs of refugees and immigrants. Right now, we have about 10 different programs from domestic violence, English as a second language, employment programs, naturalization and immigration programs, youth development, early childhood programs, and several different, and employment and housing, actually, which is very important for refugees and immigrants, because amongst the barriers that everybody else is facing, having the additional barriers of understanding the language and understanding the system adds to affordability of housing, or being able to find housing.
Right.
So we have many different programs within these programs
Right.
that addresses the needs of refugees and immigrants.
Okay, before you leave, could you give us a phone number or website?
Sure. So our website is ReWa, ReWA.Org, and our phone number is 206-721-0243. And we invite people by, we have 130 staff from 50 different countries and speaking 50 different languages we invite people to volunteer with us. We have about 500 volunteers a year.
Fantastic.
They can either support us financially, volunteer with us, or contact us and work with us in different areas.
Great. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Appreciate this information.
I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna shift the camera to see the number of people who are here who we're gonna be talking to that have information from you. And so all of you are going to get the opportunity to share about your either your service or your advocacy, and then we are going to have some discussion. So I'm not going to let you sit there and not talk into the microphone, all right, and talk about some things that we have going on. But right now we're meeting everyone, and here we are.
All right, how are you tonight?
Fine, thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. And who are you?
My name is Linda Taylor, and I'm the housing director at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, and I also do financial empowerment. So I'm here on behalf of our brand new CEO, Michelle Merriweather. She is under the weather today.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about what the organization does.
Well, we are 82 years old. We're one of 100 urban leagues around the country. And we all basically do the same things, help African Americans and other people of color become self-sufficient. We just all do it just a little bit differently. So we do ours through pre-purchase counseling, post-purchase, mortgage modification, HECM counseling, and that's reverse mortgages. What we do is counsel on those. We don't give you those products. We help you get the best products. We do criminal records expungement, rental counseling, homeless outreach, financial budget preparedness, and we have a wonderful program called Career Bridge and a priority hire program. A little bit about the priority hire program. They're getting into the unions to work and fighting to stay in the unions. In 1969, Edwin T. Pratt, our president and CEO, was killed. He was killed fighting to get in the unions, and we're still fighting to get in and stay in the unions and be treated equitably. We work with Eddie, of course, a lot to make sure that we're up on the latest. That's priority hire. We have an employment department and education department. I believe a lady was speaking just earlier about staying in your homes and different things like that. We do a lot of that. And one of the things that people don't know a lot about are senior tax exemptions. So we're doing a lot of educating on the senior tax exemption, because sometimes that's the difference of you staying in your home and moving out of your home.
Okay. So what are some of the ways that people can get involved and find out more information about the programs that you guys offer?
Come on down.
Okay.
Just come on down to the Urban League. We're located at 105 14th Avenue, Suite 200. We're still the same place that we've been for years. We're going to attempt to stay there. That's going to always be our anchor. But we're planning on taking some offices further south, just so we can get further into the community because of our community is moving south.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that is definitely moving south.
It definitely is very fast. But we like to coordinate with all of the other social service agencies that are out here. All of the other agencies we find a lot of value in because they assist our people. They assist African Americans and other people of color to become self-sufficient one way or the other. Our whole goal is to build generational wealth, some wealth that you can pass down, whether it be in knowledge, finances, wherever it is. That's our goal.
Okay, and I appreciate that. So are you guys looking for volunteers?
Always.
And is the best way to do that is to come on down?
Come on down
okay.
and sign up for our volunteer program. We vet them very well.
Okay.
Our Career Bridge people, it started out as a men's program, and now it's men and women, and they have 6 weeks of training, and when they leave, they get some certificates in various things. I cannot tell you what those certificates are, but come on down and learn more about them. That's the employment department, but they're great. I teach a credit class there. And most people don't know much about their credit at all. So we will pull your credit report, give you your credit score, and teach you how to build it and keep up on it and enhance it and make it better. Because nothing can cure your credit but time.
Exactly. Very true. All right. So if they wanted to get in contact with you, is there a phone number?
Sure. That's 206-461-3792. That's the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on down. And this is RainierAvenueRadio.World. And this is the social justice.
Hi, my name is Teresa Everett, and I am the Resource Development Officer at Atlantic Street Center. And our new Executive Director, Samiri Amirfaze, was not available today. So I volunteered to come on down and talk about Atlantic Street Center, which I love doing anyway.
Amen.
So Atlantic Street Center is a social service agency that's been around for 108 years. Yes, we're that old. Atlantic Street Center is one of the original 4 agencies that started Community Chest. And you may not be familiar with Community Chest, but Community Chest is United Way. So that's how old Atlantic Street Center is. Our mission is pretty much the same, and that's to help families and communities raise healthy, successful children and youth. And we do that through 4 core programming areas at Atlantic Street Center: early learning, youth development and family support, mental health counseling, and case management. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about early learning. I like to brag about Atlantic Street Center. So I'm happy to have this opportunity. So Atlantic Street Center is the very first agency to start the Parent-Child Home program in Western Washington. It's a national program that has gotten a lot of national recognition for the work that they do, working with 2- and 3-year-olds. And the whole point of that program is to make sure that parents know that they are the first teachers of their children, and also to make sure that children are kindergarten ready by the time that they go to kindergarten. So home visitors will go into the homes, interact with the parent and the child, and they do that with educational toys, educational books, and they do that 9 months during the school year. So they're on the same cycle as the school year, but they actually go into the homes and work with the families. That program has been really effective. We're hearing reports that kids are very up to par when it comes to being in kindergarten. Some of them are above kindergarten. Kids have been promoted into grades above where they should be. And so we are just very, very proud of that program. Our youth development and family support, we do things around parent education, family support, interaction within the community, cultural events, things like that. So we have 2 locations. One is down off of Massachusetts, 2103 South Atlantic Street. I don't know how I forgot that one. 2103 South Atlantic Street is one of our locations, and our other location is off of Cloverdale. Cloverdale Place. So it's 5150 South Cloverdale Place. And that's where our family center is actually located, and most of our programs take place. We also do mental health therapy and case management. And the concept at Atlantic Street Center is to take care of, if you take care of the whole family, then you're taking care of the child. And so, and that is our ultimate goal, is that the child is adjusted, mentally sound, physically sound, and is learning and growing in school. And at some point they will become adults and be self-sufficient. Another one of our premier programs at Atlantic Street Center is our Summer Academy program. And actually our Summer Academy program is held right across the street at Damascus Baptist Church, their educational center. That program is 4 weeks during the summertime. We take care of kids that are falling behind in school academically or having emotional, social problems. And so we bring in certified teachers, we bring in trained tutors, we train our volunteers, and we work with those kids for 4 weeks from 9 to 3, 5 days a week, helping them get school ready so that when they return to school in the fall, some of the barriers have been removed to helping them succeed in school.
Teresa, is there a cost for this?
There is no cost for any of the programming at Atlantic Street Center. So these programs are free to all of our participants. So whether they're taking parenting classes, attending support groups for our Teens as Parents program, our Grandparents and Kinship Care program, they're taking parenting classes, first aid, CPR, all of our classes are free to the participants. And so Atlantic Street Center does a variety of programs. And so my time is almost up, but please go to our website, our brand new website. It is so cool. Go to our website, learn more about what we do. And that will be at www.atlanticstreet.org. Or you can call our agency at 206-329-2050, and you will be directed appropriately. And you can surely ask for me because I love to talk with people.
You do, and thank you. You made my job very easy. Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate you. This is RainierAvenueRadio.World.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
All right.
My name is Manu. I'm coming from Social Justice Fund. We're a community foundation that gives grants out to organizations that do grassroots community organizing here in Seattle and across the 5-state region. We've been around not as long as some of you, only 40 years. But I think the purpose for this community organizing, the reason we fund that is because that's the kind of work that gets at systems change. That's the kind of work that gets at the root cause of issues. And that's also the kind of work that doesn't get funded from like general philanthropy in general. And so when I talk about community organizing, community work that community organizing, I mean work that is done by the people that are most impacted. So it's not somebody else coming in and helping a group of people. It's work that builds power from within the organization. So you're moving people into positions of leadership. You're building a base of people that understand what the issue is and working at it. And like I mentioned earlier, you're doing systems change. You're making sure that systems that are problematic are being addressed within the community. Yeah.
Okay. So is there a project that you can that you've worked on that you'll be most proud of that you guys funded?
There's a lot that we funded. We have the way that we do our funding is through giving projects. We have about 6 giving projects a year, and we tend to fund about 10 to 15 organizations per giving project. But some of the organizations that we funded in the past include GAC Green, which is a community environmental justice organization that does that works within here in South Seattle and has done some pretty amazing things. The more interesting part about what we do is how we do it, because we think it's important to get everybody involved in building sustainable community organizing. So we get people to come together from across class, cross race background in what we call giving projects. They do some political analysis work together. They read grants together. They fundraise from their own community, do whatever is meaningful. You don't have to give $1 million. You can, but you don't have to. Just anything that's meaningful to you. And as a result, we've been able to raise between $100,000 to $300,000 per giving project as a result. And then, as you're doing this giving project, you make decisions about where to go. Because these are intentionally cross-class and cross-race, we have a cap to how many white people can be in the giving projects. Okay. And so right now for this year, we're only allowing people of color to sign up for the giving projects. We have coalitions and alliances giving projects about to start up on March 10th. So if you want to do that work, learn a little bit more about what organizing work is happening in Seattle, please make sure to join that. And again, unfortunately, that's only for people of color right now. And then we also have an environmental justice giving project. So that's going to be starting on September 8th. What I'm really excited about is the Black-led organizing giving project. I'm going to be leading that. That's starting this fall also. And that's just going to be for Black people funding Black-led organizing across the region.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So how do we get in contact with
Yeah.
you if you want to get more information?
Yeah. Please come to our website. It's socialjusticefund.org. Again, that's socialjusticefund.org. You can also, if you're looking for funding and you're an organization that does community organizing and you'd like to see if you can apply for some of the grants, visit our website too. And yeah, that's the best way.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to have everyone staring at you and not responding.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
It's
Thank you.
RainierAvenueRadio.World. Go for it, sister.
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Abisha Shafra, and I am with Rainier Valley Corps. We're a community-based organization right here down the street on Rainier and Hudson. And we do, our organization's mission is essentially to promote social justice. And we do that through strengthening leaders of color, strengthening organizations led by communities of color, and fostering collaboration among diverse communities. So we do that through 4 primary programs. One of them is our operations support. We provide operations support to our partners. It is a very intimate partnership, which takes a lot of trust and deep ties. Essentially, we want our partners to focus on what they're really good at, which is oftentimes providing programming, going out there and building movements, building their communities, advocating, whatever it may be that they're good at. We want them to focus on that and not be tied down by having to do like finances, which they may not be great at. But again, if they want to, we want to build their capacity to do that. And then we also have our executive coaching. I think that's self-explanatory. And then we have our community alliance, which we provide peer learning groups, affinity peer learning groups, where we invite nonprofit professionals of color to come together, network, learn from each other, and build collective impact. And then we have our fellowship program, in which I am the program director for. And we provide a 2-year fellowship program where we train and develop leaders that are about early to mid-career in the nonprofit sector to provide them nonprofit management training, and then nonprofit management training and leadership. And then they go out there and we put them in a full-time position at a grassroots community-based organization.
How do you recruit these people?
Great question. We rely heavily on our partners. So we have 10 community-based organizations that we partner with for our fellowship program. And we rely on them to kind of recruit for themselves. And if they don't have it, then we have a application process. We do info sessions. We go out into the community, build partnership, and talk to folks so that figure out if they're a good fit for this.
How long is your program?
It's 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So a 2-year intensive program. And they start off with a retreat, a week-long retreat, where they build dynamics with each other, ensure that they are all on the same page, make sure that a lot of it is, based on relationships, and we want them beyond our program to be tied to each other, to be a network, a support system to each other. So we try to establish that foundation, and then they go into a month-long, almost crash course grad level nonprofit management program. And then, so we provide them anything from like how nonprofits are formed to fundraising to board training, all the aspects of nonprofit management.
What is the cost for this?
To the fellows, there's actually no cost. We actually pay them a living wage, and then we provide them the trainings. It's a monthly training beyond the first month. But to our partners, it's based on their organization's budget size. And really, our partnership is not, that's not really, our mission is not to make revenue off of that. It's really to ensure that, there is investment and buy-in from them. So yeah.
Is there a limited number of partners that you can have or you desire to have?
There's different levels of partnership. So with our fellowship program, we try to keep it at about 10 to 12, just because it's a very intense program that takes a lot of commitment and investment. And with our other partnerships, it depends on, it doesn't really have a limit. So our Community Alliance, it's open to any nonprofit organization that's led by communities of color. Our peer learning groups are open to any nonprofit professionals of color. Our operation support is also open to anyone. We actually just started, and we only have 5 operation support partners, but we're looking for more. So if you are interested, our managing director, Ananda Venezuela, is awesome, and you can talk to her, and she would be the perfect person to talk to.
Would you give us her number and the website, please?
Yeah, so actually you can go to RainierValleyCorps.org, and all our information is right there. Can I highlight one thing?
You sure can.
We have our Inside the Activist Studio coming up this next Thursday, from 6 to 8 at the CoLab, the Hillman City Collaborative. We welcome anyone to join us. We're highlighting one of our community partners, the leaders of Rainier Beach Action Coalition, Patrice Thomas, to talk to us and share her journey and what has led her to here. So actually, we're highlighting Black leaders in the community for this year, I believe.
And what's the address again and the day and time?
That's a great question. I don't know the address. It's right on Rainier and Orcas, so you'll see it. But it's the Hillman City Collaborative, Thursday, March 8th, from 6 to 9 p.m. 6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate this information.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful staring at you.
Yeah, thank you. We're gonna keep this going. But right now, I do want to take this opportunity to tell folks who are listening, if you're just joining us for the first time, we are Rainier Avenue Radio. I'm Tony Benton. This is Brenda Charles Edwards, and Jalal Wilson is with us as well, and we're talking to folks from the community. Now, this is why we exist. If you've listened to us before and you may have a favorite program, we are here to represent the voices of South Seattle, to let folks know that there are a number of amazing and wonderful things that take place in this community. As a matter of fact, we have over 40 shows produced by members of our community, 40 members of our community producing shows on this radio station in a few areas. We have talk shows where we talk about critical issues. Sometimes they're just funny, and like Jalal's show, his travails as a single father. We have shows that are in music. We have a wide variety of music shows, everything from hip hop to jazz to reggae to old school. And then we also have our sports programming, which we're very proud of. And right now, we're broadcasting high school basketball games. We were broadcasting high school football. And we're going to broadcast everything high school. We'll broadcast volleyball and wrestling and lacrosse. Our goal is to make sure that our young folks who are student athletes also get that opportunity to hear their names shown, their names heard on the radio. Now, here's the thing. most of our listener base, we have over 18,000 listeners, and we're very proud of that. Round of applause, please. As a community radio station, and our core listeners are in Seattle and Tacoma and Kent and Renton and on the east side as well. But we do reach people not only all over the state, we reach people consistently all over the country. And I am very proud to say that without any real advertising or effort on our part, we are reaching folks in all over the world, in the Philippines, in Guatemala, in Spain, in Portugal, in Germany, in Russia, in the Netherlands, in Canada, in Mexico, in Australia, in New Zealand. I can go on and on and on. And that is because of the work that folks like you are doing within our communities. This is a very diverse community, and for us, that makes it something special to be able to reach out to the rest of the world. In Japan, I mean, I could just keep going on and on where we have listeners. And so for those of you who are tuning in, what we are doing tonight is letting you know about the folks who are in our community, who try to make our community better, who provide resources to our community, and again, those who advocate on behalf of different causes and give you the opportunity to find out what they do and who they are. So if you need services, you'll be able to know where to go. And these folks will let you know. If you want to be actively involved and engaged, you'll know that as well. Having said that, I told you we were going to start to double up and combine some folks. And we are going to have some conversation where our folks who are here from social service agencies speak freely, openly, and we start to share the microphone and just have some general discussion. But we want to let everybody have the opportunity to tell you who they are. And so I'll turn it back over to y'all.
All right, who do we have now?
So my name is Raisa.
My name is Majestic.
So I'm with the Washington Bus. We're a youth civic engagement organization, and I'll just tell you a little bit about the bus. We know that young people are at the forefront and have been at the forefront of political and social movements for decades. And we saw that in Seattle and in the King County area and in Washington State. Ooh, thank you. In Washington State around marriage equality, around raising the minimum wage, and around more currently comprehensive immigration reform and so many other issues. We know that youth are the power, and we know that youth have the power, and we have the tools and resources to allow youth to be the power, and that's something that we like to say. So a little bit about, we have a number of programs to provide professional development opportunities for young people, to provide learning in political organizing, social justice organizing, and so many other fields. And primarily, I want to hype a particular program that's coming up this summer, and that anyone between the ages of 18 and 25 can apply to. And it's called the Fellowship, and it's a 40-hour-a-week commitment for 10 weeks, and there is a stipend, and it will allow all the youth involved to hone their skills in organizing and campaigning and practice in community facilitation. And we know that y'all are passionate, we know that y'all are smart, and we know that y'all are really, really excited about being engaged. And so we want to give you all the resources to contribute to your communities in the way that you want to.
Where is that going to be located?
So the fellowship itself is located at the Washington Bus office in Pioneer Square. To apply for the fellowship, you can go to WA Education Fund, or Washington Bus Education Fund. So wabuseducationfund.org, and you'll find the fellowship application there. It's free to apply, and you can absolutely email me or call me with any questions. My email is raisah@washingtonbus.org, and then you can call us at 206-325-1889. And please, please, please apply for the program. We want to hear from you, and we want to see the change that you're going to make in your community.
And that's 18 to 25.
Exactly.
Sounds good. Remember that, everyone.
All right, go ahead and tell us about your name and the program you represent today.
So my name is Majestic. I'm with Seattle Young People's Project. Feel bad because I'm the only one that brought notes. So Seattle Young People's Project is a 25-year-old grassroots community-based organization creating space for anti-racist and intersectional feminist and youth-led adult-supported community organizing. Our mission stands on 3 legs, which is to empower, educate, and inspire youth. Seattle Young People's Project organizes programming that mobilizes young leaders from across the state in a from teens for teens structure. We give young people a voice that they often are told does not exist. And in terms of education, we believe that education is the key to success. We organize and present workshops to students and adults across the state about topics like adultism, homophobia, and racism. In terms of inspiration, we give youth that have active roles within the organization the opportunity to travel to conferences and conventions around the country to give dedicated young people one-on-one contact with people that work in our organization.
Okay. And how do people get involved? How do they find out more information about you guys? Where do they go?
The best place to go to stay up to date on what we're working on is our Facebook page. Just type in Seattle Young People's Project. We're pretty active there. We're also starting to get more active on our Instagram. You can follow us at SYPP206. And I would highly recommend that you do that. Currently, our most important initiative that we're pushing is the March for Our Lives event on March 24th. In solidarity with the students at Stoneman Douglas in Florida. Yeah.
Where's that going to be?
Well, it's sort of being organized with 2 separate organizations. Seattle Young People's Project, we're focusing more on the walkout. We want to encourage students across the state, not just in Seattle, not just in King County, but in Washington State to walk out March 24th at 10 a.m. We want you to contact your local representatives and tell them, and well, not tell them, but demand gun laws. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
You know what, this is really exciting to see our young people get
Yes.
so involved. It is about time, no offense, but it's just really exciting to see this.
So in general, for young people who want to get involved with the programs that you guys offer, they go to the Facebook page, or is there a certain criteria, or how does that work?
Well, the Facebook page, you can stay up to date on when we're looking for new board members or looking for, or if we need young people that work in certain areas to help us coordinate events. We do have a website at sypp.org also, and all links to any new opportunities will be there. Okay. So we have, for example, we have one event called Visions Fest, which we're trying to make a yearly thing. It's a performing arts, visual arts showcase and marketplace for youth in and around Seattle. So events like that, that's why you want to stay up to date on our social media. You'll see when we're trying to recruit youth to come in and present their talents.
What's the age range of the youth that you're recruiting?
Youth, as of right now, is defined as 13 to 22. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is RainierAvenueRadio.World, and we've been really blessed with everyone that's been here this evening, giving us their organization's viewpoints and also letting us know what's going on in Seattle and and throughout the state. Who is our next guest?
Okay. Hi.
How you doing?
Hi.
Good.
Good. So tell us a little bit about your name, your organization you represent.
My name is Josh Castle. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Community Engagement with the Low Income Housing Institute. Lehigh has been around 26 years. I've been with Lehigh for about 2 years. And we do a variety of things. We provide a nonprofit, we're a nonprofit organization. We provide affordable housing. We have 62 buildings in 6 counties, about 2,000 units of affordable housing. We also have 3 hygiene centers, urban rest stops, that provide laundry, bathroom, and shower service for people experiencing homelessness. And then we have a shelter out of our office, in the basement of our office. We also have 7 tiny house villages that serve people experiencing homelessness as a crisis response to homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Seattle. That's kind of the short version of what we do. We also do, we have a team of case managers that work with all the residents and the clients at our urban rest stops and at our housing facilities and our villages to help them with all range of services from access to housing, access to employment resources, education, all kinds of things. Any kind of services or government benefits that they may not be aware of, they help them with accessing those. And then from the villages, case managers working with residents. The program's only been around for 2 years. We've been able to transition 300 people into housing from the villages. So what they serve as is a way of getting folks basically out of the cold isolation and danger of the streets, out of homelessness, into a safe, secure tiny house village. They have 24/7 security. On top of that, the houses are insulated and heated, so it provides a safe, warm place to stay. And then case managers, like I said, work with them to help them get into housing from there. So it's an interim solution to help people go from homelessness to permanent housing. We serve all kinds of people. We serve a variety of communities: young people, seniors, people of color, veterans, immigrants, refugees, and in our buildings, in our 62 buildings, and our villages. And any other questions?
Yes, I have a burning question that I
Yes.
have to ask. What is your organization's definition of affordable housing, and what is the city's definition of affordable housing?
I can't speak for the city, but I can speak for the organization. We have the concept of 30% AMI or 60% AMI. It's 30% of the area median income or 60% of the area median income. So what it means is that somebody can basically pay only, like, for example, 30% of their income, of the area median income, for housing. So they have 60, what is that, I'm doing the math here, right? They have 70% left of their income to pay for any other expenses beyond that. So in Seattle, with the unaffordable housing crisis that we're experiencing.
What did you say? The what?
In Seattle, with the unaffordable.
Yes.
Okay.
Unaffordable
I
just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yes,
Okay.
that we're experiencing. Basically it's a way of making sure that somebody is not having to pay, because right now, like, rent is so high everywhere that you'd have to pay 100% of your income or 150% of your income, with the way wages are, how stagnant wages are, even with a $15 minimum wage, that's still a huge struggle, obviously, and it's very hard to find any affordable housing in Seattle. So what that does is it allows somebody that's only paying a portion of their income to housing, so they have income for all the other life's expenses that we know we have.
So the the developers that are building affordable housing, who are they building it for?
They're building it for people who are experiencing homelessness and low income individuals as well, and families.
They are.
Yes.
Are they able to move into them?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, we have. So these are basically, like I said, they're for for people who are who are coming from homelessness or they're low income. And then I should also mention we have a whole bunch of volunteer programs. So we have about 100 regular volunteers at any one time that serve like a weekly shift or something like that. And then we have over 1,000 volunteers that come and help set up our tiny house villages. And by the way, those are, so six of them are city sanctioned. We work with the city on them. And then one of them is church sponsored, which is at 22nd and Union. And on top of that, we are, so we have volunteer programs. And I also want to just plug that if anybody wanted to reach out who is interested in volunteering, they can email me at jcastle, JCASTLE, at lihi.org, or they can call me at 206-957-8067. And our main office is in Belltown, and we're doing things all over the place. So please reach out and let us know how you'd like to help.
Okay, I do have a question for the tiny house community. Is there a time frame that a person is allowed to stay before they have to transition into, their own housing or
affordable housing?
Yeah. So there's actually no limit really, but it depends on. So some people stay for a few weeks because that's all they need to get to be able to get into housing, and then sometimes it takes a few months, and sometimes it takes takes the entire time that the village since the village opened. So it's a whole variety of situations because people are they're in different situations. Some people are dealing with alcoholism or addictions. They need to get there's a lot of different things they need to get through basically. And basically, so it's the average I'd say is probably a couple of months to get into housing from there. But it's a large, we have a lot. There's a lot of families. It's shocking how many families with kids are homeless, and it's like, how is that even allowed to happen? Like we talk to the city, it's like, how is this even allowed to occur? And it does. So we hold we hold special houses at the tiny house villages, some big ones to help if there's ever a family that has kids. We'll transition them into one of these houses, and then case managers are at the top of the list to get into housing as soon as it's available. They're at the top of the list. The case managers work with them. So a lot of times families will only be in a village for like just a few weeks because case managers work with them to get them out as quickly as we can.
That is wonderful. Thank you, Jay, for this information. I'm sure everyone will find it very beneficial, and thank you for your definition of affordable housing.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, let's keep this going. All right, this is. I'm really excited to hear about the safety nets that we have here for people who live in our communities, and just really excited about the safety nets we have here in our communities. Okay, let's keep this going.
Okay, I guess he's leaving me. Hi, what is your name and what is your organization that you're with?
My name is Nancy, and
Hi, Nancy.
I am the program manager at Sustainable Seattle. So we do things a little bit different. A lot of folks have talked about direct service, and Sustainable Seattle doesn't really do direct service, but I'll talk about the programs that
Please
we do. So our mission is to build a thriving future with initiatives that deliver environmental and community benefits. And while doing that, we would like to promote equity and build resilience. So we have 3 programs that I'm going to talk about today that really exemplify our mission. Our other programs do that too, but it's not as clear. So first, I'd like to talk about our DPAVE program. Have you heard about DPAVE before?
No, I haven't. Please tell me.
Okay, so DPAVE is basically the removal of excess pavement. Why don't we call it that? Because this is a very community-driven process. So instead of us coming into community and telling us, you have too much parking space here, let's get rid of that pavement, we come to the community and talk to them about what are some areas that could use some green space. So first and foremost, it's really a stormwater quality benefit because it's removing pollution before it goes into the sound.
Is this in the residential area you're referring to?
It can be residential, it can be public property with a right of way or on private property owners. So it's a range. And so that's one component, the stormwater piece, but we're really looking at multi-benefit in the DPAVE projects that we do. So for example, we're working on one with the Ethiopian Community Center, and they are interested in creating a more multi-generational space that is also green. So right now they have a really big parking lot that doesn't have any shade. And in the summertime, they have the kids playing outside and the elders are looking after the kids, but they have no place to sit. There's no shade out there. So when we have 80-degree weather, they're just sitting in the heat. So we're working with them to kind of create that green space so they can sit, have a place to chat with each other, and also have shade.
For that.
So we're grant funded mostly. This particular project is in partnership with the City of Seattle. So they are trying to showcase that cultural hubs are areas where we should be investing in. So that's why they chose to do that. And that is also in conjunction with the Environmental Justice Committee for the city. They chose that location.
Cultural hubs. I like that. Okay, continue on.
Great. So that's our DPAVE program. If anybody is interested in something like that in their neighborhood, we're looking for a site to do in the greater Seattle area. We are doing 3 pilot projects in the Duwamish Valley now. As folks know, there's a lot of environmental degradation in the Duwamish Valley, with it being a super fun site and all, and a lot of air pollution in that area.
Yes.
So again, multi-benefits. If you think air pollution is an issue, we can depave and plant trees. If food access is an issue, we can depave and create a food garden, things like that. So come and talk to me about that. Be happy to chat about it. Another program that is really new, you won't find it on our website, is our RISE program. And RISE stands for Resilience, Investment, Sustainability, and Equity. And so for that program, we are working with neighborhoods to build resilience. And for us, that means, I was just memorizing the definition. So it is being able to, instead of bouncing back, to bounce forward from kind of like a environmental crisis or really anything that communities could face that could be catastrophic.
Like an earthquake.
Like an earthquake. And looking at root causes to things so that instead of bouncing back to kind of what our systems are right now, we're going to bounce forward. And like, for example, in South Park, they don't have a grocery store there.
And I see now there's that big space on 4th Avenue. I was hoping was going to be a grocery store or a Walmart or something, but that would have been perfect.
I don't know about that space, but looking at things like how can we put in food systems in that neighborhood and assist with that. So that's kind of our RISE program. It's not just food systems. We're also, it's really based on what the community needs and what they're wanting for their neighborhood. So you just talk to me and we'll figure out a plan and figure out an action plan to take care of that. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about, we are having our Sustainability Leadership Awards where we are showcasing a lot of the projects that folks are doing around the city and organizations that are doing good work. For example, like Rainier Valley Corps is one of our nominees, folks over at Got Green, folks like that. So,
and when is that going to be held?
This Friday.
Oh, this coming Friday?
This Friday, yes.
Is that March 2nd? At what time and what place?
6 to 8.
6 to 8?
Yes.
Where?
At the Brocky Center in South Seattle Community College. And you can find out more info on our website at sustainableseattle.org. And you can also hit me up at Nancy at sustainableseattle.org.
Thank you, Nancy. That was great. Give her a hand, everyone.
All right, let's keep this going. You're listening to RainierAvenueRadio.World, our special celebration of Black History Month. This is Social Services, Social Justice Night, and we've got organizations and individuals representing these organizations from our community to share with you who they are and what they do.
How you doing? Good. How are you?
Good. Tell us who you are and your name and what you do.
Cool. So my name is Simone, and I'm with Community Alliance for Global Justice. And we are an organization that works at the intersection of local food justice here in Seattle in our region and the global food sovereignty movement. So just to define what food sovereignty is, it's a movement led by farmers and peasant farmers and small farmers and women farmers around the world that are saying we need to take back our food system from corporatized agriculture and put it back into the hands of communities for culturally appropriate food and the right to control our food system. So we work in that large global movement doing community education here about how did we get to this agricultural trade system that we live in now? What are the roots of our food system? And also mobilizing and activating people to take action through food justice solidarity campaigns here in Seattle, where we work with a lot of different community groups and organizations across the food system, from grocery store workers that are unionized to people of color-led organizations like Got Green, that's been mentioned a bunch of times, and yeah, and a variety of groups. We've supported the boycott campaign of the farm workers up in Bellingham area who have successfully unionized and won a contract on their farm. So yeah, a variety of different campaigns that will mobilize people to take action into. Yeah.
So where do people find out more information, and how do people volunteer? Is it volunteer based or? Okay. And how long have you guys been around?
Okay, so we came out of the global justice movement era of the 90s, early 2000s. We were formed after the 1999 protests here in Seattle that shut down the World Trade Organization. So been around for about 16 or so years, 17 years, something like that. And And the way that we organize is through volunteer membership. So people are interested in getting involved, learning more about what food justice and food sovereignty is and looks like, and taking action on that. We have a monthly meeting on Tuesdays at our office, which is in the International District in Chinatown. And that is something that people are welcome to come to. We also have community events where we do more education around these issues. In fact, there's one in 2 weeks that I'll just plug right now. We're actually partnering with Social Justice Fund for this event, and it's on March 13th. It's taking place at Southside Commons, just down the street here on Edmonds. And the event is called Who Profits from Philanthropy? And it's kind of asking these questions that a lot of people tonight have talked about, like our economic system and how we fund grassroots movements and things like this. So it's talking about the distribution of wealth and power, and philanthropists like the Gates Foundation, for example, that have a lot of money. Well, like, are they really channeling it in the right ways, and how are communities being impacted by that, and how can we kind of change that to fund things from a more social justice perspective? So that's open to the public. It's free. There's going to be food. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. Southside Commons, March 13th. You should definitely come. And you can also reach out to us. Our website is cagj.org. My email is simone@cagj.org if people are interested in learning more, volunteering. Yeah.
So that's, okay, so the one March 13th, you said it. Tell me again what you said.
It's at Southside Commons, which is, the address is 3518 South Edmund Street.
Okay, from 6 to 8. Okay.
Yeah.
And you gave us your address, you gave us your phone number. I think you did. You did a great job. We appreciate you being here and letting us know more about what you guys got coming up.
Yeah.
Great. And this is RainierAvenueRadio.World, and this is Social Justice Night, and we're just gonna keep this party going.
All right. Well, this is what we're gonna do now. Yeah, a big round of applause for everybody. Did everybody had an opportunity, right? Okay. This is what's gonna happen now. This is going to become interactive, and we're excited that we have all of the entities here that we do to discuss what they do and how they do it. I know that you are all very passionate about what you do, or you wouldn't be doing the work that you do. The reason why there is a safety net is because there are people who are falling through the cracks. The reason why we have a safety net is because you can be doing just fine and miss one paycheck and things can go wrong. The reason that we have a safety net is because I guess one reason would be we would consider ourselves to be a caring society of people that takes care of those who are who are vulnerable, and takes care of those who need assistance. So I anticipate some conversation going here, and I think there's a couple mics out there, and just kind of with everyone, what are, from your perspectives, the problems facing our communities today? A couple of you have microphones, and if you want a microphone, I'm anticipating that y'all should be able to talk about this because you're on the front lines. So let's talk about it. What are the problems facing our communities today?
One thing that I see every day is the lack of information. The lack of information about what is out there. There are a lot of agencies out there doing a lot of great things that are very, serious secrets. The county has been, once again, doing senior tax exemptions for years. They'll actually go back 3 years on your taxes, depending on income, of course, on your property taxes, and give you an exemption. And so many people don't know about it. They say that's one of the most underutilized programs in the county.
Run that back one more again, so that people know what you just said, because that's important.
Right.
So say, what was that again now?
The county.
Everybody pay attention.
Okay. The county will go back 3 years if you qualify. Of course, it's depending on income. And there are a lot of other extenuating circumstances that feed into that income, medication, the cost of, I mean, I could go on and on about some of the things that feed into it, but it's the best kept secret. And they say it's one of the most underutilized programs in our county. And people just don't know about it. Property taxes are running people out. That's help gentrification big time. Property taxes. And most of you just got your tax bill the other day. I know I got mine and it scared me.
Maximum 18%, and ours went up 17%.
Yeah, I thought mine went up 22. Well, I live right by Othello Station. So they're just skyrocketing.
Again, anybody, from your perspective, what are the things, the issues, the concerns impacting our communities?
So I'll say I think one of the issues that really impacts our communities is that this issue that we're sort of all left on our own, and rather than having the kinds of supports built into the system so that people don't fall through the cracks. I mean, we don't have just cracks, we have these gaping holes, right? We have so much income inequality. We have, even with our $15 minimum wage here in Seattle, we still have these huge disparities in wages by gender, by race, by class, by immigrant status. And all of those kinds of things that in most other wealthy countries, things like childcare, you don't have to pay out of pocket for that. They have early learning and preschool is available, publicly available, just like public school is here, starting when, for little kids, very young preschoolers, what we consider preschoolers, they already get it. People don't have to pay for college in most other wealthy countries like we do here, that sends people into debt. People don't have to, healthcare is provided without these huge individualized costs that we have for healthcare here in this country. And taxes are done in a much more fair way most other places, actually in most other states in the United States, most other states have a much more fair tax structure that asks the people who can afford to pay the most, the wealthiest people, to pay a percentage of their income to support all of these services rather than relying so heavily on sales taxes and property taxes like we do here in Washington State. So, but it really takes all of the community coming together to change these kinds of policies so that every job pays a living wage, so that we have the kinds of community supports and structural supports so that we have access to these services without each person having to do it completely on their own.
Yeah, and I want to continue to hear from y'all because there are people out there listening right now. And for those of you listening on RainierAvenueRadio.World, thank you. And we invite you, if you want to be visual, to go to our Facebook page. Go to Facebook, RainierAvenueRadio.World, and you can see what's going on. If you're on the Facebook page or if you're listening through the TuneIn app, we encourage you to go to our website, take a look at all of the things that we've got going on and see, again, what we're doing. We're celebrating Black History Month. 20 events in 28 days, discussing a variety of things. So again, I'm going to go to our experts here who are working in the community. Somebody take a microphone. You're doing this work. Tell us what the problems are. Tell us, for folks out there who are listening, who may feel like it's just me, I'm the only one experiencing this. What are things that are impacting our communities? And again, I'll put it this way, and you can take this and run with it, or you can leave it where it is. Have the changes in federal policies, how have they impacted our communities? Maybe they haven't, but we keep hearing about it. So I want to know, from the boots on the ground in Seattle, what are those issues and how have those federal policies impacted those who need assistance here in our communities? Anybody?
Yeah, no, I do think that like a pragmatic look at what the issues are is really important. And at the same time, I feel like we need to take a larger look at what the major issues are, which is like systemic oppression that has been going on for a while. So like this hierarchy that we have built in to think that if you're white and male and cisgender, you're on top, you automatically get like the privilege. Like I feel like we need to the work that we need to do is recognize see the water for what it is. It's poisoned, and it's just poisoning, the people at the bottom right now. And so we got to filter all of that through. We got to recognize like the haze that we're walking through, and see it for what it is before we can actually start to make solutions and get at like that systemic piece. Because I feel like right now, my personal worry is if we just go, I think policies are important and we need to do that, but we also need to do that deep cultural work at understanding what the problems have been for hundreds of years now, and realize that we can undo the stuff that has been put upon us. We don't have to follow that practice. Recognize that and do a cultural change, like really as we're doing policy work, as we're doing all this other things. Recognize that we don't have to be we don't have to just rely on a safety net. We can make sure that people aren't falling.
Thank you. Did y'all in the back, were you raising your hands? Yeah, take the microphone. No, this is not the time to be bashful. This is an opportunity, again, to express not only to others, but what's going on in our communities and share that.
I just kind of going off what you were just saying, Manu, about like the systems and structures that we have in place. I think that it's also what I see really strongly through the work looking at food systems in particular too is just like the increased corporatization and privatization of these kinds of things, and that goes hand in hand with capitalist structures that are built on racism and systemic oppression. And so I really do believe also that in order to tackle these from a community powered perspective, that we need to really dig into those systems and identify ways that we can transform and really believe in that and really believe in our power to do that, and do the deep work in the education, community education that we can do to really like lay out all of the systems and structures that are keeping this in place. Because I mean, when it comes down to it, I think everyone in this room is probably anti-capitalist, and and like that, these are these systems are really what is keeping that empowering, keeping like a ruling class and elite power grab and hold on everything that ends up controlling like the food that we have on our table and who has access to healthy food and whatnot. So just wanted to emphasize that too. And yeah, we can do it.
That's a broad statement. I want to make sure I heard you right and our listeners heard you right. Did you say that you believe everyone is anti-capitalism?
Okay, maybe I shouldn't make that assumption that we're all anti-capitalist.
What do you mean when you say anti-capitalist?
I guess what I mean by that is that, from my understanding, capitalism is really like this global system that is keeping some people at the very, very top and some people at the very, very bottom. And we have all of these different systems and structures that are like holding that into place. I think that capitalism is built on racism, and it's built on keeping some people oppressed and keeping some people in positions of extreme power and access to wealth and privilege. And so just hearing about everyone's work and like the way that we're all addressing different issues on local, state, regional, global levels, I was making an assumption that we're all trying to tackle that in our ways.
You can't do this work that you do and take politics out of the equation. I'm sorry, say who you are and where you're from again.
So my name is Simone Adler, and I'm with Community Alliance for Global Justice.
All right. Well, now I would like, again, someone to comment on this issue. What do we need in our communities? And some of you work with organizations where you try to empower people, and that's capitalism. Correct me if I'm wrong, but again, I want this to be a broad conversation. Anyone feel free to jump in on any of the commentary, because I don't expect that all of us should agree on everything. That is part of what community is all about, and that is why you are all diverse in the work that you do. So somebody else grab the mic now.
So one of the things that I wanted to say, and my name is Teresa, and I work with the Atlantic Street Center, is that I think, and I feel very strongly that it starts at a very basic level, and that is empowering people to understand that they do have a voice, and teaching them how to advocate for themselves. And so that's one of the things that Atlantic Street Center just very recently did is there was a town hall meeting in New Holly where they wanted to hear about the issues that are affecting them regarding housing. And so a lot of our participants felt like they didn't have a voice. But when we encouraged them to do that and decided that we were going to go as an agency to this town hall meeting, a lot of our participants showed up at the event, and they did speak at the event and talked about how difficult it is for them to find a place to live that's affordable. And so I think that it starts at a very basic level, is just teaching people how to advocate for themselves and reminding them that they do have a voice and that their voice should be heard. So I think that that's a very crucial part of moving forward as a community.
Thank you. I will be asking another question, but there are folks out there right now who are going, wait a minute. This is a group of folks who are social service workers and social advocates, and we're not getting a whole lot of conversation about what people in the community need and what the needs in the community are. I think we can do better than that. Let's talk about it. You know, what is it? Are you in these positions? Are you looking? Are there boots on the ground? What are the things impacting and affecting our community? Not everybody knows. Some people know because it's happening to them. And if these are the issues that you're dealing with, please, I shouldn't have to beg you. You should be stepping up to the microphone. This is your opportunity to address those situations and speak for the people who you're supposed to be working on behalf of.
Well, I think one of the things that was addressed is the disparity when it comes to employment and income. I think also because the Atlantic Street Center is an agency that serves African Americans. So when I think about African Americans, it's also the disparities that happen with healthcare and education. And so when your basic needs are not being met, it's hard to concentrate and focus on anything else. And so the families are really struggling just to meet their basic needs. And having shelter is a very big one. And it's one of the most critical things that's going on in our community right now, is just having a place to live. So, and you're not talking about all the other rising costs that go with that, just paying your utility bill, having food on your table, all those costs are going up. So inflation is going up and the incomes are just not keeping up with it. So it's hard for parents to focus on, you know, when we remind them that, you know, education, that is your way out, and you know, and just stick with this, and, you know, and things will change. When they say things kind of reverting back, healthcare, you know, these things are going in the opposite direction. Where they had hope, they're now losing hope again. So there are a lot of issues that are facing these families when they're just trying to keep their head above water, and they're not even making the salaries to do that, to provide for their families.
That's correct. And a lot of people are facing what's called LFOs, legal fines and obligations, if you've had any type of criminal record, where a lot of these people can have their records expunged. But that LFO is growing. It's growing rapidly. My understanding is that billions of dollars are owed the county for legal fines and obligations. So if we had a day of amnesty, that we could pay some of those back. And a lot of people are willing to pay them, but they're growing faster than they can pay them. And so that's holding a lot of people back, way back. When I go to do your credit report and do your budget, that's holding people way back.
I am going to get to another question, but I'm not going to let y'all off the hook. We got a couple folks talking here. What are the issues from your perspective, from your service, from your entity, from your organization, impacting and affecting our communities? Give voice to those people who don't have voice, who aren't here, who come to see you.
Yeah, I'm really just appreciating the.
And say your name and where you're from, too.
My name is Abisha, and I am from Seattle. I'm with Rainier Valley Corps. I just wanted to say thank you guys again for putting this together and just having the intergenerational and diverse voices, because I think it's really important for us to be building power and undoing a lot of the oppression that we face. One thing that I want to call out, and a lot of people have been doing, is that, you know, there is wealth inequities and disparities, you know, across the country, but particularly in Seattle, it makes no sense to me, like no imaginable sense that a city with such wealth and resource rich, that we're facing a lot of these issues. And I want to call out the fact that, you know, a lot of, like, particularly with, communities of color-led organizations and organizations that are focusing on building power and undoing a lot of the institutional oppression that a lot of our communities face, that funding is not going to them, right? Like all these organizations that are big and white-led, they have the capacity to go out there and write all the best grants, or go out there and have a donor person fundraising and all these things that they have tactics and strategies for, that a lot of these smaller organizations, which, that come back to the community, quote, and ask them to do the work. They're not directly oftentimes doing those. So I would really encourage a lot of the funders or people that are giving out the money in city, county, state, to really focus on filtering that resources and the money, especially money. We're talking directly about funding, not just like, training. Sometimes it's just money that they need to directly filter that to the organizations that are doing this work. They are suffering. The people that are doing this work are not, getting any kind of living wage. They're working. We're asking people to work, below minimum wage just to be supporting their own communities, their own families. So it makes no sense to me that we're asking them to do service work, but not paying them to not be in the same position of the clients that they're serving and the members that they're serving. So I really encourage that. And I really encourage that it's not just about the top down. I don't think that's ever going to solve anything. But I also think it's really our job as community members, as people, to be engaged, to learn and kind of, try to figure out what you can do within the hour or 30 minutes that you have, because otherwise we're going to get played. That's just kind of the reality of the structures that we're facing. So if you can donate $5 to an organization that you benefited from, or if you could show up and voice your opinion, I think there's so much power. And I really wanted to just, shout out to Manu and folks that are saying, like, it's a systemic issue, and I think we have to address that. I think we could also do some work to be able to, like, infiltrate certain things, because I think both of that and all the different strategies that our communities are doing are really important. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's all sizes and all solutions that are going to undo the mechanism of this like mass machine that we're facing. So I just wanted to highlight that and say, give money to the organizations that are, doing this work, and they're doing amazing work.
Thank you. We've got a couple more minutes. I still want to stay on this. We had the opportunity for you to talk about your entity, your organization, and now I'm asking you to take the microphone. And if you're uncomfortable, you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be comfortable right now. When we talk about these issues, if you are comfortable, then you are probably not really concerned about the things that are going on. If you're uncomfortable because I'm asking someone to put a microphone in your hand and tell you to explain to us what the things are going on that you should be on top of, and you all are doing a great job, by the way, so don't let me intimidate you. But I do want to make sure that you begin to speak up. This is an open forum. This is a place for you to talk freely. This is what we do. This is how we get out. And you're going to be part of that process today. You had the opportunity to come up here and talk about what you do. Now let's share with people why you do it, how you do it, and what you do it for. But the first part of that is, again, let's explain to our listeners, and we've had a few people talk, and I'll change the subject here, but I do want a couple more people to respond. What are the issues impacting and facing our communities, and have the federal policies, the changes, because you all talk about the changes in federal policies. It's in the papers, it's on internet all the time. Every day something is coming up. So explain to us what the problems are impacting, and if you haven't talked right now, somebody put a mic in somebody's hand who hasn't spoken up. Right here. Okay.
Oh. Hello. My name's Valerie Thiel, and I'm an architect. Our firm looks for projects that we believe in to support. So our work is chiefly affordable housing, homeless youth, and we have worked with a lot of different diverse groups, from the First American groups to First Nation groups to the Central District, North Rainier, to the International District, and down in Auburn, where we have a homeless youth facility that we're trying to get completely funded and built. So I think all of us, we bring our spirits and our passions, and we're trying to make a difference step by step. I think there's hope in the 2018 elections. I think that it takes, as you say, the grassroots organizing to push that forward, and for all the people who have been impacted to believe that we can make a difference, because so many people, it's far over the majority who have been impacted. If we can just all believe that we can make that difference, we can really change things. So we just have to believe, I think, and raise our voices and our energy. That's what I believe.
So when you say the 2018 elections is bringing politics back into it, what does that mean? If we can change things in the 2018 election, what do we need to change? What do you mean when you say that? 2018 elections, how is that going to change anything? What is it that needs to be changed? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about how in another 20 years, the minority are going to be a majority in the country. I think there's forces out there who are trying to slow that down, and you can see so many efforts being made in that direction, but the tide is moving that way, and we have to raise our voices. You all have to raise your voices and believe and we have to believe that our voices and what we believe in can make a difference. I think that I was talking about a federal. It's much easier, I think, to make a difference on the local level because Seattle is so sympathetic to many of these voices that have been expressed tonight. I think we can make a difference on the city level, and that difference can lead to a state movement, and Washington State can be an example on so many issues for what the country is headed toward and can pick up on.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else before I move on?
Second.
Okay, yes.
So I think somebody was going to come in.
Go ahead. If they're out there and they want to come in, they're welcome to come in. Yeah, come on in.
Yeah, can I? So I think that the issues that we are facing right now within our community is housing affordability. I want to echo everything that everybody else said about institutional racism and also racism. Which plays a role in housing affordability for many as well as employment. I think what makes a difference in our city and in our county and in our state, we are a sanctuary city and sanctuary state. What's happening within the federal government actually is in one way is affecting our democracy, and another way helping us to recognize that in order to keep that democracy alive, as you said, is to be an agent of change. So we get together and we make sure that democracy is preserved and there is justice for all. On the other hand, what I think that's going to happen is that needs to happen is that we cannot do it with just federal government or state government. We have to have the philanthropy involved. So we have to get, and what we are good at in here in this state is we have really vibrant philanthropists. We have organizations, corporations that they're making tons of money, and we have this system and this culture of giving. So if we can bring philanthropy and the state together, the public and private coordination of funding for the programs that are running right now, we can make a difference.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Majestic from SIP again. I know you asked about policy changes and how they're affecting our community, but in my community, it's sort of the opposite. And the lack of policy changes that's affecting my community. I go back to school shootings. You would think, you know, mostly we're talking about Seattle here, but I don't think mass shootings are a Seattle-based issue. But I wrote this just the other day.
Yeah.
Not the other. Since the events of Sandy Hook in 2012, over 400 people have been shot on a school campus. Over a quarter of those victims were killed, which reflects decades of lawmakers failing to put the safety of my classmates before their own partisan bickering and special interests. This is not a complex issue. I don't think we should be dying at school. I don't think we should have thought in the back of our heads as students, will it happen to us today? I don't think that you have to be anti-gun to support gun laws. I just think you have to be anti-mass shooting. So the procrastination, we like to point fingers all the time. It's the right, it's the politicians. I think that in terms of like a problem like this, and it's why we're organizing the march, and it's why students across the country have decided to take this into our own hands, is that I don't believe in, putting my arms around my classmates and just believing that things will get better and coming together and talking and agreeing with each other and then saying we're making progress. I believe in, you say boots on the ground, I believe physically putting yourself, in front of the people that are supposed to be representing you. It's not just classroom conversations. It's not just town hall meetings. It's going to the state capitol and saying, you're supposed to keep me safe. What's stopping you? So I think that's a very big issue in my community right now.
Thanks, Majestic. We're coming down. How about a round of applause? How old are you, young man?
I'm 17 years old.
17. All right. Another round of applause. And we certainly appreciate the work that each and every one of you do in our communities and what you do for our communities. I think it's important sometimes to, again, address things that were going on. And part of the reason I brought that up is because this is that opportunity. Now, I didn't want it to be just a gripe session, but a lot of people don't get to hear what's going on in our communities. And the other thing about this is that we have an issue of where to get our news, who to trust to give us news. And so that's why I think it's important that each of you say, these are the things that I personally see without a filter, me and the microphone, going on in our communities, so that people who don't do what you're doing, who rely on media services to tell them information, hear directly from you. So as we go down the home stretch here, we just have a few minutes left, and I'm not going to close that topic off. If you do want to talk about something that you think is impacting our communities, feel free to do that. But pass the microphone around, and very quickly, again, state who you are and tell us what your two-pronged question, because we're celebrating Black History Month. So some of you are about to be uncomfortable, but that's okay. I'm not sorry. Two-pronged question. Each of you, I want you to answer for us. Why are you personally doing the work that you do? That's question number one. And question number two, as we celebrate Black History Month, what do you see? Doesn't matter what your race is, what your ethnicity is, what your gender is. What do you see in the Black community? What do you see in the Black community? So it's a two-pronged question. What are you personally going to do? What do you personally feel responsible for on behalf of your entity, your agency, to make change that you do as change? Second question, what do you see in the Black community? So start anywhere. And we're waiting. There we go.
Well, again, I'm Josh Castle with the Low Income Housing Institute. Am I speaking close enough? Okay. And why do I do what I do? I'm just alarmed at the hardships and the situations that people are in, that are dealing with homelessness and that are dealing with being unhoused and that are low income. We are in a situation right now. We're in very scary times right now, at all levels, which we see just the disparity of income. I mean, we see more and more income going to the top. This happened with the recent tax cut bill, even more dramatically. And it's really hard for people just to find the ability to live, just to find housing and pay for food and pay the bills and all that. It's very, very hard for people to do that, and people are being displaced. They have to move out of the cities that they grew up in. It's really alarming what's happening, and I think just being I'm enjoying working for Lehigh because Low Income Housing Institute, because I feel like I can maybe be some small part of the solution to helping people with getting into housing and getting out of homelessness and doing something about just the injustice, the economic injustice, the social injustice that we're seeing every day, and that's happening now even more at the federal level. And just to go back a little bit, I think that having I think one thing I want to just say is that these are really scary times, and it's really easy to just look at what's going on at the federal level, and wondering like what and losing hope and feeling despair and doing it's really easy to just kind of curl up in a ball and do nothing with everything that we're hearing. But the hope that I have is that I see people signing up for volunteer, signing up to volunteer. I see people signing up to read the news, a bunch of websites. People signing up to just be involved in their community. It's happening all over the place. I think people they're doing something about it. They're waking up and
I gotta
realizing.
keep it
Okay,
moving.
sorry.
Now we're talking.
That was
now
it.
we got,
Okay.
And
yeah.
part two.
What's the part two question is?
This is Black History Month.
Yes.
We're celebrating. What do you see in the Black community?
What do I see in the Black community? I see hope and inspiration. I see beauty. I see love. I see the I see the community. We work with the Black community and with all kinds of communities of color, and it's a beautiful thing.
All right, somebody else. Oh, hands up now. Go ahead. Who's ever got a microphone? Who needs a microphone?
Dibs. So the reason why I personally do the things that I do, I've always had an interest in youth power, an interest in young people and children representing themselves, representing their opinions, and joining the greater conversation, whatever the topic be. The thing that's really driving me right now is sort of turning away from the oppressor and looking at the oppressed. I went to the annual breakfast at the Urban League, and the wonderful Angela Rye spoke, and she talked about how we cannot waste our time hating the oppressor because we have to spend our time, our love, our energy, and our resources loving the oppressed. So turning my eyes and my reach, my resources to my classmates, schools all around this area, and seeing what are the issues that are going on in those schools, because I go to a small school. I don't know what those issues are.
I'm sorry, and I got to push it. What do you see in the Black community when you see the Black community?
What do I see in the Black community?
Whatever you see, just be honest about it. Can't even describe it?
Not really. I mean, the Black community for me right now is my classmates. My classmates, my friends. I'm sort of a unique, case because I go to a very diverse school. We don't really, I don't know, it's very hard to describe, but I see a lot of teamwork. I see a lot of togetherness, and I don't mean to say that in a cliche way. but just I see a lot. We appreciate each other for who we are. We don't judge each other, and we know that the issues that affect our parents affect us equally. So that's what I see in my community.
Somebody else grab a microphone. Yes.
So the reason why I do the environmental work that I do is because growing up, I grew up in Beacon Hill, and we didn't get the benefits of the green movement where our air quality is okay and water quality and all that. My mom and my brother both have asthma, and I thought that was normal, but it's not. You go to more affluent neighborhoods, it's not as common for people to have asthma. So I want our communities to be healthier, and sometimes displacement happens because of that. But what I want to work towards is no displacement, but our communities are healthier and our neighbors are the same.
And part two.
And for the part two, I'm going to go a little bit negative. I see very low investment from the environmental community in Black communities. I go to a lot of meetings, and there's almost always very minimal representation from the African American community, and they're the ones that are most affected when we have like rates of asthma, living in polluted areas, things like that. So we need to get their ideas and get them to lead kind of this work.
Okay, quickly, someone else.
Hi, my name is Linda Taylor, and I'm from the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. And I do this work to assist in getting the information out, getting the word out about things like that, getting the word out about additional education, about the mortgage modification process, about Career Bridge, about all of our different programs that'll help the family become whole, will help you become self-sufficient, help you deliver generational wealth, help you learn to do those things generation after generation. And what I see is hope. I see a lot of hope. I've known Majestic since he was about 10, probably. His mother worked at the Urban League. And so I know she knew how to deliver hope, and she delivered it very well through him. And he's just become quite the dynamic young man. And those are the kinds of things I see. If we have to do it one child at a time, that's the way we have to do it.
Thank you. Someone else. Yes, and don't forget to say who you are.
Oh, I'm Lori Ellison Wilson, architect. And I see in terms of the Seattle Black community building up on a renaissance that folks have been talking about, that's been building momentum for the last 5 years. I see a lot of positive stuff happening. Things like Africa Town, Life Enrichment Bookstore, all these organizations that people have mentioned here today that have had an impact, very positive impact. So I see great things in the future, despite the current administration.
And I'm sorry, someone was talking. You major what you see in the Black community?
Yeah, a blooming Seattle Black Renaissance.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm Marilyn Watkins with the Economic Opportunity Institute, and I do the work I do every day because I've seen what a difference policy change can make in people's lives. Having access to sick leave for the first time so you can stay home with your sick kid or go to the doctor yourself. Having access to quality early learning. I've seen how that actually changes individual people's lives, but I've also seen how organizing and people coming together to create a vision for policy change and then advocating in their city hall or state capital to get policy change, how that actually changes people's whole conception of being able to actually participate and make a change in their whole communities. In Seattle's Black community, I see a lot of hope and power and possibility and beauty. I also see the ways in which systematic oppression has really worked and disempowered people and tried to systematically take resources and abilities and confidence away from people, but I see a lot of people with a lot of strength fighting back, and that's very hopeful.
We're going to go to somebody else. I'm going to answer this question. See, I'm Black, and the reason why I do what I do is I think it's important for people to have voice to be able to share their narrative, and you may disagree or agree with me on this, and I'm excited to hear all these hopeful things. But the reality for me is what I see in the Black community is disconnection and dysfunction, and a lot of things that if they're not corrected could be the demise of the Black community. I don't know what you would consider the Black community in Seattle, but I'm excited that some of you see some things that are very hopeful and positive, and that's just my opinion. But that's why we're doing this. quickly. Anybody else want to comment?
I do want to comment, and it was kind of along the lines of what you're saying but the reason why I do the work is because I am hopeful for the African American community, the Black community. I think that our children are our future, and so I want to be a part of the problem and I want to be a part of the solution and not the problem. Sorry, correct myself. And I think that our children are our future, and I think information and education, I think knowledge is power. And so when we don't know our history and when we don't know the resources that are available to us, we're cheating ourselves and we're defeating ourselves. I do in the African American community also see that we have not figured out how to come together as a community and to mobilize. And one of the things I want to touch on is when you said, what does the 2018 election have to do with anything? We often forget the power of the vote, how important our vote is. And so it's the power of the vote, but it's also holding our elected officials accountable for the things that are going on in our community. We don't want to just have you come out and stand with the family when someone is shot. We want you to come out and stand with the family through all times to help us uplift the family. Don't just be there for the negative, but be there for the positive as well, and help uplift these families and move them in another direction. So I think that until we come together and we learn how to mobilize and we learn how to come to, stand as one, as a community, it's going to be very difficult to move forward.
I got time for one more comment if anybody wants to say anything. Just in the back.
Can I do it?
Okay. We'll get two in. We get two in.
So I do what I do because I love Black people and I love people of color, and I think our all people of color and our destinies are tied to each other. We cannot uproot this racist system without all of us being together. So we have to do this work in unison in our own communities, but also together. What do I see for the future of Black people?
Question is not just what do you see in the Black community? That could be for the future, but when you see the Black community, what do you see?
I see humanity. I think you're right in that there's disconnect and dysfunction. So does all communities, right? There's not all communities face that. We all kind of face the same human conditions. So that is true, because I think about it in parallel to how African is seen, right? This despair place, this negative black hole. But then there's things prospering, and I see Black people prospering. I see Miss Taylor over here, all these beautiful Black people doing dope stuff is real, and I think we need to highlight them and know that they're doing it. There's amazing organizations, so I see them doing amazing, profound and radical work, and I want us to focus on that, as well as the fact that we do have crap in our communities that are happening, and all of that is a symptom of white supremacy and a symptom of the oppression that we're facing, and it's hard to be united when those forces are working 2 billion times harder than, we're trying to undo almost 500, 400 years of oppression. And we've seen, like Mr. Bai mentioned earlier, we made it through segregation and oppression and racism and Jim Crow and all of them. And there's been Black Wall Street, there's been the Central District, there's been the South End, there's been amazing people, there's been Barack Obama, minus all the things he's, but you know what I mean, there's been amazing things, and I think we need to hold those together. It's not one or the other, and I want to make sure that we root for each other. Black people need to root for ourselves and each other, and that's the diaspora, and here Black American folks in America have done amazing stuff for me to be here showing up, speaking out. So I want to make sure that we're highlighting those things, and I think it's really important that we voice that, and not just the negative, and not just in the positive. It has to be holding both sides of it. So I'm rooting for everybody Black.
My name is Owen Richards with Aura. I'm an architect also. You might have noticed there are a few architects in the audience tonight. And for those listeners who aren't aware of that, Rainier Avenue Radio is in the process of thinking about enhancing their community space to kind of foster what's happening tonight. And the reason I came is that I love working on community-focused projects. And so I didn't speak until now because I've just been listening and being amazed by the authentic conversations that have been happening tonight. And I think that that's what I observe in the strength of the Black community, and what the white community could learn from you is the sense of authentic community and ability to speak honestly and from the soul about what's important. And so that's what I'm gaining from tonight.
Well, thank you. And I hope that what, if nothing else, that you've gotten from this is that you've seen a diversity of comments. My comment is just my comment. Your comment is your comment. Your comment. What you should understand is that the Black community is not one monolithic community. We're a diverse community with lots of different thoughts, lots of different emotions, and the climate is impacting us differently as well. But there are some things that we do have in common, and it is being Black. And that is something that does impact all of us. And that is why during this History Month, we've decided to showcase the experiences of being Black from a number of different perspectives, whether it be education, whether it be health, whether it's just walking down the street. Tonight, again, social services and social justice. And tomorrow's our health night, by the way. We've also had a vendors night where we've had Black entrepreneurs be able to sell their wares. We're really excited about this. And it's who we are, and it's what we do as Rainier Avenue Radio. We celebrate the differences in all of our communities. We celebrate our community, Rainier Avenue Radio. Thank all of you for coming. Thank each of you for sharing. Thank each of you for participating, and thank each of you for doing what you do. On behalf of Jalal, on behalf of Brenda, on behalf of Mr. Yasutaki and Karen and the entire staff at Rainier Avenue Radio, thanks for listening. Coming up next is Lidline Sports. That's it. That's all the time that we've got right now. That's going to do it. So remember, yeah, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you are probably right. We're out.